It is MMAWeekly.com. I am Damon Martin. We are here with Bellator CEO Bjorn Rebney, and Bjorn, another great show in Ohio tonight. The welterweight finals are now set for the latest tournament. Lyman Good back in the race here. But one question I want to ask you is: you have obviously Carl Amasu waiting for the title shot. Is it tough when you have such a dominant welterweight champion? A lot of people out there already saying, Ben Askren, there's 2 more wins for him. Is it good or bad to have a guy that's so dominant at that weight class?
Well, I don't know. I mean, Ben is Ben's one-dimensional, but that dimension is so powerful that nobody's been able to deal with it. I mean, when you look at Ben's title fights, Ben typically wins 23 to 24 minutes of every fight when you score minute by minute. So we've never seen anybody test his stand-up, so we really don't know if it exists. I mean, Ben calls me all the time and says my stand-up's going great, but we don't know. So he's an incredibly dominant force at 170. I mean, I don't know whether it's here at Bellator or in the UFC, if there's that many guys that can beat him. It's just he has an unbelievable takedown. His top control is unparalleled. I mean, I've never seen top control like that. He's a beast. So I don't know. I mean, somebody is going to come up with a game plan to beat Ben Askren, just as someone is going to come up with a game plan at some point to beat Pat Kern, and someone's going to come up with a game plan to beat John Jones. It eventually happens. Somebody figures out the right recipe and does it, but it's going to be quite a recipe to make it happen.
We saw Daniel Strauss go and have a great performance. If there was, one slight criticism of him prior in the tournament was, he's a great wrestler, but he wasn't finishing. But tonight, I think we saw a different level of that. I mean, taking on, I believe he's a Hoist Gracie black belt in Alvin Robinson, taking him down and finishing him on the ground. I mean, do you think that was actually a bigger statement than maybe even what he did in the tournament? The way he was able to put Alvin Robinson away and kind of serve notice to Patricio or Pat Kern.
Yeah, I mean, we forget, but Daniel Strauss has had some big wins here. I mean, Daniel Strauss beat Marlon Sandro when Marlon was ranked 7 in the world and dominated him, didn't submit him. But Alvin is, I could have projected that we would see Daniel Strauss beat Alvin Robinson standing, but to submit a guy like that, very, very, very few people can submit a guy like that. I mean, very few people in the world. So, Daniel has kind of prided himself on being a guy who takes every fight 15 minutes, and now he's finishing. I mean, if you combine that with his strength and his gas tank, because he can go at the elite top level, 9 or 10 out of 10 in terms of energy for an entire 15 or 25 minutes. So he's dangerous. Daniel Strauss is a very, very talented 145-pound fighter, and the sky's the limit. I mean, he had a tough fight against Pitbull. He never was able to get on track when he fought Pitbull the first time. He's fought Curran before, but they were both much different fighters at the time. I mean, it's going to be a heck of a title fight no matter who it's against.
You had Zoila Gurgel finally come back tonight, and you've had some super fights in the women's division since she's been gone, but no tournaments and no definitive moves as far as a new division or what's going on. Her coming back, is that a signal that we're going to start seeing, especially with Spike TV coming up in 2013 and the popularity we've seen with things like Invicta out there? The women seem to be kind of hitting a new stride, maybe better than they've ever been before.
Right. With Ronda's ride that she's been on at Strikeforce, and none of us know if that's going to continue and where Strikeforce is going, but with what Invicta's been doing and what Shannon Knapp has put together, there is kind of a new upward trend in terms of the women's game, and people are paying attention. So between Zoila and Jessica Aguilar, Megumi Fujii, Jessica Evil Eye, and some others, we've got a real good basis of women who could fight at 125 to put that together. And we're going to have to just kind of figure out what's the timing and where would it go, what platform would it find itself on, but I still remain hugely interested in putting it together.
I know, one last question about Zoila. We talked during the presser, some of the negative stuff that happened before this fight. Is it safe to say the conversation you had with her tonight and the performance, is all that put to bed, and are we ready to move on with what's going to be with Zoila and Bellator?
Yeah, I've never really had an issue with Zoila. I understand. I've never been an athlete at this level, but I did. I was involved in athletics at the Division I level as a college football player. I understand the frustration of injury. I understand the frustration and the anger that comes from not being able to play or to fight. And I get it. And fighters, one of the things that makes folks like this capable of getting inside the cage and doing what they do is that they have a huge amount of confidence. If you don't have that confidence, you're destined for very bad things to happen in this game. And that confidence breeds itself not only in their fighting, it also breeds itself and shows itself in the desire and the want and the belief that you should be on the biggest platform. And I appreciate that. I applaud it. So I don't have any ill will towards Zoila in terms of that. She wanted to be on the biggest platform. And you know, I mean, I think we made a good decision, and I think, you know, she post-fight acknowledged that, hey, it probably wasn't the right time for that, and I'm not quite where I need to be. But no, I mean, I've got high hopes for her, and I think she's got, you know, like I discussed with her 2 years ago when she was fighting more regularly, I think she's got a lot of potential. She can do some really great things in the game. She's just got to keep working, keep listening to George, and take it to the next level.
Two last housekeeping items, if I could hit on them real quick. Eddie Alvarez, we know, has entered free agency. Had a chance to talk to his manager, Glenn Robinson, the other day, and he said, you guys have been in negotiations. Things are going very well. And he said, Bellator's made it very clear they're making a push. They want to keep Eddie Alvarez. Is that a statement you're willing to make, to say you are going to push very hard? Because it seemed like after the fight, you know, there's these assumptions out there, well, Eddie's gone. But according to Glenn and what we've heard from Eddie, you guys really want to keep him.
Yeah, I mean, look, I've been the desire to keep Ed is across multiple platforms. I mean, Eddie's been a guy that I've been talking to 2-3 times a week since 2008. He's a friend of mine. He's also one of the most exciting 155-pounders on earth. You know, he's a huge talent. He's a huge talent. I mean, he's in his last 2 fights, his Pitbull fight and then the Aoki fight before that, he looked tremendous. Obviously had the loss to Chandler in what I thought was the fight of the year last year, and a lot of people agreed with me. You know, so we're making a push, but like everything we've done at Bellator, it really boils down to a business decision. We don't change directions or dynamics based on emotion, and we don't make decisions based on emotion. I'm crazy about Ed. I like watching Ed fight, and we'll either negotiate a deal with Ed and sign him over the next few days, or we won't, and I'll free Ed up sooner than we have to and let him go talk to the UFC and then determine if we're going to match the deal. You know, Ed's a talent. He's a talent, and he brings it in every fight. He doesn't know how to have a boring fight. The safe play for Ed when he fought Pitbull was to stay at distance and try to pick Pitbull apart and not put himself in danger. And Ed doesn't know that road any more than I know how to drive around the streets of Istanbul, Turkey. He just doesn't know how to fight like that. He comes and he brings it in every fight. So, you know, I've got crazy respect for Ed, and you know, hopefully he'll end up fighting here, and if he doesn't, I'm sure he'll do well in the UFC.
Last question I'll ask you: the move to Spike TV, closer and closer as each month passes. A lot of excitement there. The reality show is starting. We know that's warming up. We've seen the promos out there with King Mo and everything. But recently, I'm sure you heard the comments. An executive from FX said, and I'm quoting here, I would never say this, but quoting, Spike better watch their ass. And it sounds like, obviously, counter-programming, some different ideas are in mind. As the head of Bellator, and soon to be on home on Spike TV, how do you react to that, and are you ready for what may come in 2013?
You know, the one thing that I've always learned, having spent 25 years in television, in sports and television and promotion and working in different organizations and leagues, the NFL and others, is that you can really only control what you can control. And it sounds like a parent's response, but it's actually the truth. I can work tirelessly to produce a great television show. I can work to put a lot of butts in seats in arenas. I can work to sign the most exciting and dynamic fighters in the world. We can produce great feature pieces. We can do all of that. We can promote it and we can market it, and we can work with our partners at Spike, who basically built out the MMA landscape in terms of television. But the rest of it, I never talked to anyone at Fox or FX, so I don't know what they would be doing. And I spend 20 plus hours a day focusing on what we're doing. So my job is to work with our partners at Spike and put out an amazing product, which we're doing, and to put out a product that gets better and better and better week after week after week. And then ultimately it really comes down to guys like you and I, fans, who are going to determine where they're going to spend their night and where they're going to watch and how they're going to make their own decisions. So it's just, I think there's so little time in the day to get the things done. I rarely have time to see my kids or kiss my wife, so better yet, focus on something that I have absolutely no control over. So I focus on the stuff I do.
Excellent. Bjorn, thank you again for a great show, and thank you for the time.
Thanks, man.